It's the morning of July 2nd, 1982, when a man attaches weather balloons filled with helium to a launcher. Then he sits in the chair in his girlfriend's backyard, tied to a core. The launcher ascends so quickly that the moment the rope is fully stretched, it snaps instantly. The man is now rising rapidly into the sky, soaring above the clouds. Although he is just a truck driver, he has always been fascinated by the sky. This crazy act is a lifelong dream. It's the reason why he has kept pushing through hardships for so long. This is his moment. He is not scared, he is confident. He has meticulously prepared this unbelievable stunt for months. His plan is to be carried by the prevailing air current to fly eastward of the city, to eventually land beyond the mountains in the unoccupied desert. But instead, this day, the wind has decided to blow in the opposite direction, towards the ocean, but especially toward the airport. As he remains at the mercy of the sky, he is now getting dangerously close to nearby airplanes. Of course, he has no right to fly, let alone over this area. On the ground, his girlfriend is communicating with him through the radio he is equipped with. She is crying and begging him to come down before he gets killed.
No, you're heading for the ocean. You do not want to go over the ocean, so you have to come down too. Okay, there's planes up there. We can hear them. Are you okay? Everybody down here says to cut them and get down now. Cut your balloons and come down now. Everyone wants you down now. Can you please?
This is the story of the launcher pilot, Larry Walters. Humanity has been dreaming of flying for thousands of years. Like Larry, many people still wish they could soar through the sky to see what the world looks like from up there. But at least today, you don't have to risk your life doing it. A hot air balloon ride is probably as good of an experience. However, finding the right place for planning such activities can be challenging. That's why Viator offers an easy and reliable way to book exciting experiences such as a hot air balloon ride, but also a lot more. It is the platform I personally use whenever I want to book a tour or do an activity I have never done before, such as coastering or scuba diving. With over 300,000 different experiences, you are sure to find one that is right for you. From a simple outing in your area with a date or friends to planning vacations with your family, Viator got you covered. For every activity, you can check the reviews and detailed information so you know exactly what to expect. And even if you can't go, you can always cancel for free. So give it a try by clicking on the link in the description, enter a place or an activity in the search bar, and book your first experience with Viator today. Again, click on the link in the description and plan your next activity today. Back to our story. Lawrence Richard Walters was born on April 19, 1949, and as a young kid, Larry only wants one thing: to fly in the sky. Well, it's not really surprising given the fact that his dad is a pilot in the US Air Force. Unfortunately, Larry has bad eyesight and needs glasses, so unlike his dad, he will never be able to become a pilot. But this doesn't stop his obsession with the sky. When he's just 8 years old, he goes on vacation to Disneyland with his family. As he enters the park, the very first thing he notices is a lady holding a ton of Mickey Mouse balloons. He remains frozen, absolutely amazed by what he's looking at. At this moment, he doesn't know it yet, but that's when the idea of the launcher flight first develops in his mind. However, the real confirmation only comes a few years later. Larry is now a 13-year-old teenage boy when he goes to an Army-Navy surplus store. There, he takes a look above his head to find a weather balloon hanging from the ceiling. That's when he realizes that this is the way to go. With enough of these balloons, he will be able to fly. But you may ask yourself, why doesn't he just try skydiving or something like that? Well, the thing is that Larry isn't just interested in going up for the sake of it. It has to be something he puts together himself. But life happens, and he has to put his dream on hold as he is drafted to Vietnam. His time in the army is traumatic, and through the horror of the war, there are many times when he thinks about just giving up on life altogether. But whenever he gets to this point, he reminds himself about his dream, and it gives him the strength and the courage to keep pushing forward. When he finally comes back to the US, he meets a young woman named Carol. He tells her about his dream, But the least we can say is that she isn't too fond of the idea. So once more, he decides to set aside his dream. He takes a job as a truck driver and keeps on living his life with Carol. But 10 years later, while having lunch at McDonald's, he has a revelation. Quote, "It's now or never. I got to do it." Unquote. So he pulls a quarter from his pocket and with it, he starts drawing balloons on placemats. He is designing a prototype that he calls Inspiration. This will be the name of the machine that will take him up in the sky. When he tells Carol that it is time for his dream to turn into a reality, she can see in his eyes that Larry is committed and this time is not going to back off. Although she is still against the idea, she decides to support him. Quote, "Well, it's best you do it and get it out of your system." Unquote. So, over the next few months, they actively prepare everything they will need. They buy plenty of equipment, including weather balloons, helium, and of course, a sturdy launcher. At Carol's insistence, Larry drives to a flight school to do some skydiving, but he does the bare minimum and jumps only once before buying his own parachute. Yeah, he really doesn't care about anything but flying on his own and on his own terms. The day before the flight, Larry and Carol make the final preparations. In the backyard of Carol's house, they add water jugs to the sides of the lawn chair. But mostly, they inflate the 43 weather balloons one by one and tie them together. The entire contraption ends up floating 50 feet high, which doesn't exactly go unnoticed. So, before midnight, a few sheriff deputies put their head over the fence and ask what is going on here. Fortunately, Larry is a quick thinker and replies that they are getting ready to shoot a TV commercial in the morning. And somehow, this works. From there, they won't be bothered by the police. Now, nothing will stop Larry from making his dream a reality. The following morning at 11 o'clock, he puts on his parachute, grabs a BB gun and a radio. Inspiration is now complete, and Larry is ready for takeoff. A rope is tied to a friend's car on one end and to the launcher on the other end. The plan is to let Larry rise about 100 feet until the rope is extended to ensure everything is going well before cutting it. Finally, Larry sits on the chair. He has absolutely no belt or any security, well, except for his parachute, which he never tested. They let the rope loose, and Larry starts rising at an incredible speed, breaking the rope instantly once it is fully stretched. The chair pitches forward so violently that Larry's glasses fly off along with some equipment hanging from the chair. This is too much for Carol, who starts panicking and crying.
Gotta come down if you can't see! Come down!
But Larry remains calm and steady. There is no way he's coming down now. He's lived his whole life up to this moment.
Everything's A-okay.
His intention is to drift northeast with the prevailing winds over the San Gabriel Mountains outside the city and reach the Mojave Desert. And fortunately on this day, the wind decides to push him in the opposite direction. Thus, he is now moving straight to the airport, with airplanes at a similar altitude getting dangerously close to him. Carol is distraught.
Hey, everybody down here says to cut it and get down now. Cut your balloons and come down now. Can you please?
But Larry isn't about to fight with her. There is just no way he's going to come down now. Not after all the money, time and energy he has sunk into this project. Quote, "No way in heck, I was just going to have a good time up there." Unquote. And so, Larry keeps ascending. The higher he goes, the more things he can see. Sitting in his launcher, thousands of feet above the ground, he is living the dream he's always had. He cannot believe he's doing it. It seems unreal. Down there, he can see orange funnels of the Queen Mary and a big seaplane of Howard Hughes. Even higher up, the oil tanks of the naval station become small dots from his point of view. Now, he can see the coast and even Catalina Island in the distance. The sea is blue and opaque, and below him, a little plane buzzing its propeller is the only sound he can hear. He has a camera, but Larry doesn't take any pictures. This is a personal, almost intimate experience for him, a moment he wants to keep for himself, to create a memory that will exclusively belong to him. As he is flying in the sky, he feels like time has stopped just for him. It's like he is the only person in the world at this instant, and nothing else matters. But this flight is about to take an unexpected turn. Larry was supposed to cruise at around 8,000 feet, but he is now at 15,000 feet up in the air, and the worst part is that he is still ascending quickly. It's getting really cold, but more alarming, the air is getting too thin to breathe properly. So Larry finally decides it is time to descend. He takes the air pistol, points it up at a balloon and shoots. A balloon pops and starts dangling from the side of his chair. But one isn't enough, so he keeps shooting, popping one balloon after another. 7 balloons done later, he puts the BB gun on his lap to check the altitude. Out of nowhere, a sudden gust of wind blows him sideways. The chair tilts forward so violently that Larry has to hold on to the armchair with both hands so it doesn't fall off. However, this sends the BB gun flying right off his lap. Helpless, all he can do is watch the air pistol become smaller and smaller as it falls toward houses and hope that no one is standing down there. Now, Larry is terrified. He was prepared. He had backup for everything. Of course he had extra BB, and he even had extra CO2 cylinders. But he never anticipated that he would lose the gun itself. He is gasping for air as he contemplates jumping out and using his parachute. But suddenly, Larry's breathing becomes easier. He is going down, and it looks like he is going to be safe for now. But the calm doesn't last very long. Larry is now flying into a restricted zone as he receives a call on the radio from an emergency rescue unit operator, and it is clear that the person that is addressing him doesn't understand the situation.
What airport did you take off from? The difficulty is, this was an unauthorized balloon launch. I know I'm in a federal airspace.
After more back and forth, the operator still cannot believe what Larry is telling him. He is completely astonished about the situation.
You're saying you have a cluster of 35 balloons?
But Larry is now descending rapidly. He doesn't have any more time to talk with the operator, so he takes a deep breath and sends one last message over the radio.
I just took the trail that I live here.
At this point, Larry has been up for almost 2 hours, but he is now getting closer and closer to the ground. As he is coming down, new sounds are starting to reach him. He can now hear dogs barking, cars honking, and even construction noises from underneath on the street. At about 2,000 feet, inspiration suddenly begins to fall rapidly, and in an instant, Larry is just 350 feet above the ground. Rooftops are getting way too close, way too fast. He's going to crash. But Larry has one more trump card. He takes his penknife and slashes the plastic bottles alongside his lawn chair. Suddenly, gallons of water start to cascade down and allow him to slow down enough to avoid crashing on high-rise buildings. But there is nothing he can do now, as he is gliding towards power lines. He closes his eyes and holds his breath, bracing himself for the impact. As he opens his eyes, he finds himself hanging from the power lines, alive. If he had come just a bit higher, he would have been electrocuted to death for sure. Although he is stuck, his life is safe. While emergency workers turn off the electricity to bring Larry back down safely, a huge crowd of curious and amazed people forms down in the street. But when Larry puts his feet on the ground, he is directly put inside the police car. He is fully prepared to be arrested for what he just did. But after answering a few questions, he is shocked to be let go freely. As he walks away as a free man, Carol appears out of the crowd and hugs Larry stronger than she ever did. The relief she feels is enormous. She truly thought she would never see him alive again. She would scold him for his careless behavior later, but for now, she is just so happy to know he's safe. Soon after his launcher flight, Larry is making national headlines. Everyone wants to interview him to know why and how he pulled off this insane stunt. Larry takes full advantage of the situation by quitting his truck driver's job to become a motivational speaker. I wish the story would end here, but unfortunately, real life doesn't always bring a happy ending. His spell of fame doesn't last very long, and he soon returns to anonymity. Struggling to make ends meet with his new gig, he has to find another job as a security guard. But it is what is coming next that is truly tragic. Although his flying craving has been satisfied, Larry doesn't leave the high altitude. His new favorite activity is to hike into the mountains he was supposed to fly over. So much so that he volunteers as a forest ranger. Quote, "Some people take drugs to get high. I literally get high when I'm in the mountains. I feel alive. I've got my whole world right there." Unquote. But beyond the lack of money, and despite his new hobby, deep down, he is feeling empty. He had always had this big dream to look forward to strive to. It got him through thick and thin. But now, it's all over, and somehow he has to keep going. Unfortunately, he was not able to. 10 years after his incredible launch air flight, Larry would be found lifeless in the forest he liked so much. He was only 44 years old. A lot has been said about Larry's passing. His mother and Carol never believed the official report. Quote, "Were in the area. Larry was left-handed, and they found the gun in his right hand." Unquote. But the truth may be less sensational and probably even more tragic. Indeed, Larry left a few hints behind him. He had stopped making appointments in his calendar. The place he was found was in perfect condition. His shoes were properly placed outside the tent, the trash was hanging from a tree so bears couldn't get it, and there was no evidence of a fight or the presence of anyone else. He was calmly and peacefully lying down in the tent, with closed eyes and a gentle expression on his face. He had shot himself in the heart. But he also left clues that suppose it had nothing to do with the emptiness he felt after realizing his dream. You see, Larry was a sensible man. He would talk for hours with his good friends in the mountains, always talking about Carol. But life is what it is. They drifted apart and eventually broke up. Although they have always kept in touch, inside, Larry felt responsible and guilty for the end of their relationship. From there, he was never able to really move forward with his life. This statement is supported by a partly burnt note that has been recovered. Quote, "The fault and guilt are mine, and can never be denied or escaped. I now end the life which should have ended then." But perhaps we can take a look at Larry's favorite movie to understand him better. This movie was Somewhere in Time, a dramatic romance in which the main character goes back in time to meet the woman he loves. Like in the movie, we can only imagine that in some way, Larry's end was motivated by the desperate wish to travel back in time with the hope to meet Carol again and get her love back. Although Larry's fame was short-lived, and although his legacy wasn't widespread, he still inspired many followers that would imitate him. Despite the recklessness and illegality of his launch air flight, in many ways what Larry did this day is the embodiment of the human spirit. It's the idea that if you think outside the box, if you employ courage, dedication, perseverance, and of course a touch of madness, you too can push the limits of what is thought to be possible.